You got the Knebworth film coming out as well, which has been announced now.
Mate, it's fucking outrageous. I got really, well, not really, but I did get quite emotional watching it. Liam is at his absolute peak. Look great, great hair, great clothes. Sound is amazing. But actually, standing back and watching it, I was like, fucking hell, we were unbelievable. We could really, really play. And I was like, is that me playing the guitar? Because my guitar playing suffered a bit because now I'm just singing and strumming. I was on fire that night.
I think that's the only thing missing from Oasis' back catalogue, really, is live stuff. You're just so good live. And there's so many iconic gigs going right up to Argentina in 2009, which is an amazing gig as well. Yeah. You should start putting that stuff out.
We never lost the ability to do it live. But honestly, because they're interviewing fans at the time, right?
Right.
And they've tracked those fans down now, who are all in their 50s and have all got kids. And the crowd is really young. So there's no one there for nostalgic reasons. You're all in, it's like, it's your time. Now, there's one guy who, I almost fucking choked up because he was saying, you know, me and my brother were there and we could just see these two brothers. And there's a bit where we're just fucking about on stage. I'm playing a guitar solo brilliantly and Liam's trying to trip me up. In the biggest gig of our lives, right? The biggest gig of all time at that time. And he's pinching me arse and I'm kind of, never dropped a fucking note, it's unbelievable. But this guy's saying, you know, and see the two brothers and they were like me and my brother. And of course his brother's dead now and all that. And he's kind of going on and it really is kind of tugs at the heartstrings.
But it's very real, your story. And even right up now, you know, all of your songs have this sense of realness to them. And I think you will always have that.
Well, they have, you know what? All the songs that had words, that had lyrics, they're all inclusive. It was all about us, and they were all about we. And that's what I took from Acid House, was like, this is not an elitist thing. These songs are about us, and that's what has stood the test of time with the music, because it's not that you can't tie the sentiment of the songs to a particular era.
Well, it's about unity.
And,
and anthems.
And they mean as much today as they did then to a new generation of kids. And I'd like to say I was clever enough to foresee that, but it wasn't. You know, it was just coming from somewhere that was pure and wasn't thought out. And I guess it'll never die now. But yeah, the documentary is really, really great. Really good. I'm so glad we did it.
And the gigs are coming out as well on streaming then.
Well, it's going to be in the cinema. It's going to get, hopefully people will be back in cinemas then. So it's going to be in the cinema, but then you'll be able to get the separate gigs.
Amazing.
Looking back on it, we got fame really young. Liam he was 4 years younger than me. Well, still 24, 25, whatever it was, you know, like, dealt with it the best way that we could. I made a lot of artistic mistakes, doing things that I shouldn't have done, doing it for the sake of it. But I was watching the Knebworth documentary recently, doing my bit for it, and I'm looking at a lot of guys on stage. They haven't done their 10,000 hours yet. They've not even done 5,000. When bands get to play Knebworth, like Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin, they've done their 10,000 hours. We hadn't. We'd done a few hundred. We didn't know what we were just the thing that rose from a council estate that ignited all people like us in the country. We didn't know what we were doing. We just took that thing that we had in the rehearsal room and brought it onto the stage, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Do you regret that then?
No, because that's what made it what it was.
Right,
People sensed that these guys, it's not showbiz. This is the real deal.
Right.
This is the real deal. The real deal comes along in your lifetime. And I don't mean personally me. I've seen the real deal maybe twice. You know, the Sex Pistols and Oasis. Right? Sex Pistols never had 10,000 hours experience when they changed the world. Never. They had less than we did. So Oasis was never thought out. It was just, you're hanging on. But not in a way that a middle-class twerp will have you. We were just hanging on for our dear lives. We were loving it, right? We were on a really turbulent roller coaster, and it was great.
But it's interesting, that 10,000 hours theory is from Malcolm Gladwell, and he applied that to the Beatles. You do your 10,000 hours in the back streets of Hamburg or the rubbish clubs before you are good enough to then present yourself to the world and become recognised as great.
Yeah.
But, you know, your heroes are the model there, the Beatles, but you're saying it's not necessarily the best way of doing it.
Well, there's not. I mean, the one thing I've learned in the music business is there's no hard and fast rules to any of it. My point being, it's like all the bands that played at Knebworth that came before us, Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin and whoever else, they were all from the 60s, but they were doing it in the 80s. So they were 20 years into it. I signed off 2 years before Knebworth. Signed off.
2 years?
2 years.
You were on the dole 2 years before?
Yeah, 2 years.
That puts it in perspective, doesn't it?
So try and get your head around that. Added to the fame, added to the pressure of the songwriting, you've become the biggest songwriter in England, and everybody's kind of looks to you for a certain thing. But I'm not really professional, you know what I mean? I want to live the lifestyle. So trying to balance it all, I did an admirable job, I think. And actually, you can tell after Knebworth, I was watching this documentary, and I got to say I got quite emotional watching it because we were at our absolute peak. Liam is far out, like the best he's ever sounded. And I was getting and they're interviewing fans then and interviewing the same fans now, and what it meant. That's the thing that kind of got me. But I'm looking at a band at its absolute peak and thinking, well, on the biggest stage we ever played on, we just happen to be the best band in the world.
Well, my fucking ears are in pain, fucking hearing your fucking voice, you twat.